What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Beaver Dash. Gus, once again, I am through the roof, through the walls, excited. And do you know why? Do you know why I am so excited this week?
I think I got a pretty good idea, and that is that we are 1 week away from Beaver football.
And we're locked in.
1 week, baby.
Locked in every week. I'm
1
ready.
week.
We got hair on the line, high stakes. Let's dive into this first topic and start talking about this game against Wazoo.
Yeah. So, as some of you guys know, probably watched some of our videos in the past. Everyone has some stakes in on this game. Obviously, there's only 6 regular season games for the Pac-12, but Hef, you may have more riding on this game than just about anyone I know, as you have bet the Washington State Dash crew, the Cougar Dash crew, that if we lose this game, you are going to shave your head.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone out there viewing right now can see Hef. He has looks like he's got a wig on, almost looking like Napoleon Dynamite with the hair.
Oh, it's real.
How are you feeling a week before this game? Taking the Beavers or are you taking the Cougars?
Well, I mean, I got my hair on the line, so I'm obviously going to be taking the Beavers.
Are you getting more nervous, though?
No, not at all. Standing, I have fortitude, I have confidence, and I'm ready for this dub this week.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm right there with you. With that being said, DraftKings, they did release their odds or the lines for the week 1 of Pac-12 football play next week. And they had the Beavers as the underdog and the Cougars favored by 3.5. What is your initial thoughts on that line?
It's kind of tough to really even predict this game because, I mean, you got to look at both teams. Both teams are very new teams. We got Wazoo coming in with the new coach, new quarterback, a lot of new players, and the same thing with the Beavers. The Beavers have a new quarterback and a whole lot of new offensive threats and some returning defensive threats. So it's kind of tough to put a real stamp on how I feel and how everybody else might feel about this game. I think that it's a little over-exaggerated with the 3.5. I don't think it's going to go in Washington State's favor. I think the Beavers are going to be definitely more prepared this season, coming into this season. Even though there's question marks all over our team, I still think that we come out on top.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I didn't understand this because I'm trying to stay unbiased, but I honestly see the Beavers as, at the very least, we're equal with Washington State. And given that it's in Corvallis, I really am surprised that we don't have the odds makers don't have us favored. Especially given last year's game, we were on the road, lost by 1 point, in the game we blew that high scoring affair, you know? So it'll be interesting. I'm really curious. I don't understand what the justification is really for not being favored. I wonder if the rationale is, I really don't know what the rationale is. You can say we lost our quarterback, so did they, you know? You could say we have some skill guys who graduated, they do also. We have a better returning defense, I feel like. I really don't understand the rationale. Do you have any idea what they could be pointing to or why the Beavers may be the underdogs? Because, I mean, I'm not saying if this was against basically almost any other team in the Pac-12, then I would say, yes, we should be the underdogs. But Washington State, especially at home, first game of the season, I'm a little bit confused, and I wonder what the rationale is for that.
I mean, I feel like they're looking at just the Beavers' performance in the past few years and trying to translate that into this next year without realizing that last year the team took a huge step forward. And another thing you have to look at is that there's a difference between graduating players, between losing arguably one of the best coaches in the Pac-12 last year. So now they're transitioning into not only new players, but a new playbook and a new system and a new way that the coach is going to run the team. And I just don't think that they're going to be able to pull it together as quickly as OSU can, with Jonathan Smith being here for 3 years now, this being his 3rd year. So he's got all his staff in line. He's got all of his players in line. He knows exactly what he's going to do. That's why I think there's still a bunch of question marks all over Washington State. And I think that 3.5 is just a little ridiculous. I think it's a little biased just because OSU hasn't been great. But like I said, last year was a huge step. And I think those steps keep continuing in the right direction this year.
I think, for anyone out there listening, if you are looking to bet, first off, if you're in the chat, put in the chat what you're going to take on this bet. But I really think at least bet Oregon State to beat the spread. I mean, obviously, if we lose, it's going to be by 3. If we did lose, it's probably going to be by less than or more than 3, just odds wise. But I'd bet the spread. I really think Oregon State's going to win this game. I think it's a good pick. It'll be a fun one. We're going to be. I'm not sure if you saw this, F, but this is the last game of the Pac-12 in Week 1. So we play the 8:30 Pacific Standard Time game, which is kind of cool. Get to see some nighttime football in Corvallis. Obviously, we can't attend the game, but I'm sure we'll be able to view it somewhere on Monroe. With that being said, a little bit more diving into this game. Obviously, we both know where we stand, but where do you just see as how the game will flow? You see this being more of a high-scoring game like last year or a low-scoring game?
Based off of last year's performance, I want to say it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I don't know anything about the system up in Wazoo now, so I don't know what kind of football that is going to be played. You know, maybe they're a more patient offense, not trying to air it out every time. And the same thing with Oregon State. We don't know how Jebby is going to do. We don't know how our new skill players are going to do. We don't know if we're going to try to be more patient with the ball. Like I said, this whole game which is why I love the matchup. This is why I took the bet on it, is because you just don't know. I mean, if you want to look off past performances, yeah, of course, but this is just one game, and I'm sure the Cougar Dash guys can agree that it's hard to tell just exactly how both teams are going to play. And I mean, if you look at it, Oregon State has been historically bad. Wazoo has been very good these past few years, but this is the one year where it's like you just don't really know.
Yeah, no, I agree with you right there. The thing I will say is I do think this is going to be a relatively low-scoring game, and it'll be significantly low-scoring when looking at last year's. Last year played them. Final score was 54-53, right? I think it was 54-53. If not, it was 55-54, something like that. Absurd amount of points. I am going to go as far to say that I don't know if the two teams will score 55 points combined this year. Because the reason I think this, like you said, new coach for Washington State, whole new system, Oregon State, new quarterback. The thing is, in the NFL, you kind of look at it, no fans in the stadium. It's kind of favored the offense early, right? Because quarterbacks can hear the play calls better. They can communicate with their team, whatever. I don't know if that's going to be as much as the case in college, at least early going on in the Pac-12. I think it's not going to favor the defense significantly to have no fans, or the offense significantly to have no fans. So with that being said, I think the final score of this game is going to be 28-24, Beavers favor, and that's only 52 points. I really think if the over-under is going to be above 53, above that, I'm taking the under on that because I just don't think with our linebacker core we have coming back, our offense is going to be shaky, I think, at least in the early going. But I do have confidence in that defense, especially against a team like Washington State who has a shaky offense. I do think it's going to be a relatively low-scoring game.
No, yeah, no, I can agree with you there just because, I mean, this is a 7-game season. There was no time to really prepare for the season. I mean, they've had like a month now. Didn't even know if we were going to have football until, about 3-4 weeks ago. So you can't expect both of these teams to come out at, the peak of their performance. But I think that Oregon State edges it out. They put it together a little bit better. And I would honestly say I would go less than your final score. I would say that this game ends maybe like 24-21. Like, it's not gonna. I don't think it's not gonna be a shootout again this year because last year was ridiculous. I mean, like that's a whole lot of points to be scored in a football game. So yeah,
sorry to cut you off there, Hef, but both of us think this is gonna be a low-scoring game. And what I'm really hoping for is this is normally not what you hope for as a fan. What I'm really hoping for is that Washington State is the one who has to put a game-winning drive together to win the game and not us, Because I honestly don't know if I'm going to trust – it looks like Jibia is going to be our starting quarterback this year. I don't know if I'm going to trust him in basically his first ever game to lead to down in crunch time, What do you think about that? Do you have faith in this offense? Say it ends up being 24-21. We have the ball, 4 minutes left. We're down 21-17. Do you trust our offense enough in crunch time to drive down the field and put up a touchdown?
See, that's tough just because we don't know the offense. We know what kind of offense that Jonathan Smith wants to play. It's just if the offense can execute that style of play. But I also know that our defense is equally as shaky as our offense might be with a new quarterback and new skill players. So, I mean, I would honestly quite truthfully trust the offense more than I would trust the defense to
Really?
stop that Wazoo team, because it's hard to tell, because in years past, our defense obviously hasn't been very good, other than Rashad Jr. And I mean, I would go with the offense on that end just because I think that it'll be a little bit more easy for the offense to get down the field against Wazoo's defense than for our defense to stop Wazoo's offense, regardless of who they have.
I would say I understand with you. I understand what you're saying. And I do think this year in total, our offense is going to be far superior to our defense. But week one, I think this is probably going to be one of the games where we really need our defense to win us the game. We need those leaders we have come back, that linebacking core we have come back to step up. Because while I think our offense should be explosive and should be dynamic and should be improved from last year, it's asking a lot for a guy in his first ever start, really, to put up 40 points, 50 points. So I really think the defense has to win us this one. If they can win us this one, I'm not going to ask them to win us another game out of the next 6. Just win us this one game, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to the defense to capitalize on first, week one mistakes, because Wazoo and Oregon State are both going to have rust. They're going to both make week one mistakes. It's about which defense can really capitalize on the new, because I mean, both teams pretty much have new offenses. Maybe not in the way the scheme comes, but I mean, with the players, they're going to be rusty. They're going to be shaky. He's like our quarterback. This is the first time he's starting as on any team, to be honest. So, I mean, it's on the defense to, capitalize on those mistakes that Wazoo makes. And I just don't know if they're going to do it. I hope they do, but it's kind of tough to know when you've seen the past performances of our defense in the past years.
I'm right there with you. Next week, I am doing a show on Friday, crossover show with Ryan Root of Washington State of Beaver Dash. We're going to talk about this game in a little more depth and a fun one. Hef, I'll be sure to speak your opinion into there as well. But let's move on. Let's look at the season more as a whole, because this is probably one of the last times me and you are going to be able to discuss the Beavers from this broad bird's eye view, because most of the time moving forward, it's going to be about a specific game or whatever. We're not going to be able to talk about the season as a whole. So we still have kind of this ignorant bliss, if you will, about what the season's going to hold. Do you think, some of the biggest questions facing Oregon State this season?
Well, let me come at you with a question then. So my question for you is, can OSU show up on both sides of the ball for all 4 quarters? Because we haven't seen that in just about any game in the past 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, that's interesting. That was not on. We both, I think, came here with 3. What we both felt were the 3 biggest questions of the season, right? And I didn't have that one, so that's a great question. That is interesting, though, because that is definitely one thing we've struggled with. I've seen us play great halves of football, and then the second half completely waste what we did in that first half, right? Washington State, that was an example. Played great in the first half last year. Second half, gave it away. It was USC, I believe, 2 years ago. Had the lead going into the fourth quarter, gave it away. We both remember that time we played Stanford and they were ranked. Best 3 quarters of football, gave it away. So I really think that does come with maturity. That's where I'm a little bit hesitant to say yes, because we had the leadership last year in Luton and weren't able to do that. But at the same time, we do have Rashad Jr. coming back. But I don't know. Maybe this is a thing that Jonathan Smith is going to have to instill on his team, because I don't know if we have the same amount of veteran leadership that we did last year in terms of players. But hopefully Smith's the more experience he has, he's going to be able to translate that into putting together full game plans. Where do you stand on it?
I'm kind of there with you in the way that I've seen this team play so good, and then just like paper, they fold out of nowhere for no reason. But I have a lot of confidence in the team this year, and like we've been talking about for weeks and weeks and weeks now, OSU is making very good strides in the right direction. I think that that's one of the things that they can change. I think that they can put together a full game and play great. There's no reason that they shouldn't. I mean, even though the defense is shaky, we still have a leader in Rashad Jr. So, I mean, there's no reason that the defense can't go out there and put up 4 quarters worth of football that is worth watching and not losing the game. It also is on the defense to allow the offense to be on the field more. So, I mean, if the defense is on the field most of the game, they're going to be exhausted. They're going to be gassed, and there's no way that they're going to be able to play 4 quarters worth of great football. So it's an even balance. If the offense can help the defense and the defense can help the offense, I think that they can do it. And this is going to be the perfect year to test if they can actually do it.
That's a great point. I'm glad you brought that one up because it's really just think about how many games we would have won if we would have played 4 quarters of that game. That's a great point. But one thing I have for you, a little bit shifting gears, but can our offensive line protect the pass this year? I feel like that's going to be one of the keys to our success. Do you think our line can protect against the pass?
Well, I mean, we only have 1 returning starter from last year's team. We had 2 guys that were drafted. Hopefully he can bring some insight and experience to those new guys having to step up into that role. But it's up to those guys who are new and who are the next man up to step into their role and play it well. And I don't think it has anything to do with skill. I think it has to do with mental toughness this year. It's whether they can, stand strong and protect the quarterback. There's no doubt in my mind that the guys that we have can play their positions and play it, if not good, great. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, it's what's between the ears, not how big you are, how strong you are, how fast you are. I mean, our team definitely has all the assets that they need. It's just about if they can, handle the pressure.
I like that. I like that a lot. I think that you're spot on because what we don't have returning starters per se. We have our starting center this year was a second-team all-conference at Arizona his freshman year. He's been battling injuries, but he's fully healthy for the first time again in his career, basically. If he can put it together, I don't know. Like you said, we have the talent, but that is going to be key for us because the story, I think, of a lot of losses this year is going to be our quarterback had no time to throw. If we lose games, I think that is going to be one of the main things we talk about. So that is key. I think we need to be able to protect against the pass. What do you have up next for your next question?
Will the quarterback situation be figured out after a few weeks, say week 1 or week 2, or is this going to be an all-season debate?
Yeah. Okay, so I almost had that one. I guess this one kind of goes right in there with it. So I'll throw it out there and we can kind of discuss the two. My question was basically, is Jibbia, because he looks like he's our starting quarterback right now. He was named team captain. Is Jibbia as good? Can he be as good as Luton was? So I'll bounce off what you said first. I think, honestly, I was a big guy. I was one of the main people saying start Chance Nolan. I have been saying it. Right now, though, I am going to say it's figured out. I think Tristan Jibbia, as long as he's healthy, I think he's going to start all 7 games. And the reason I say that is I think Washington State, that'll be a great first game for him. Well, I don't know if we'll put up the best numbers or if we'll be able to – I kind of said I don't expect him to put up 30, 40 points. I think that's a great team to get his feet underneath him. If he had to go against, say, like an Oregon first game or like ASU or if they play one of the top tier teams, I'd be a lot more worried because you know how it goes, especially with people our age, college athletes. They have that one bad game. It can be a roller coaster effect. I think he can have at least an above average game against Washington State. He has the talent to be a starter in the Pac-12. So I think getting off to that good start will instill some confidence in him, and he'll be able to ride that out for the next 3-4 games and remain our starter throughout the season.
See, now this is kind of where I disagree with you. I'm happy. I was the advocate for starting Jibbia for the first game. And like you said, Washington State, great game for him to get, his feet underneath him, get his toes in the water. But I mean, you move on to week 2 and to week 3, and if he doesn't produce week 1, 2, and 3, is it Jonathan Smith's offense of wanting a pocket passing quarterback, or is it just Jibbia? So that's where I think the controversy comes in. To the biggest question that I would like to propose is, will Jonathan Smith be willing to shift that offense to, not a pocket passer QB type of offense and let Chance Nolan get out there and run around and make plays? Because, I mean, that's one of the things we haven't seen at Oregon State for a long time is a guy that can move in and out of the pocket and not force plays, but at least open up the field enough to extend a play instead of just having to check it down or to, try to air it out and then throw an interception. We haven't had a guy that can use his legs and actually get on the move. So if Jibbia doesn't work out in the first 2-3 weeks, I think it is still an ongoing debate all season on why they're not starting Nolan or why they're not, trying to transform that offense to get Jibbia out of the pocket more. Because I mean, if it doesn't work, I don't want to see it be Jebbia doesn't work out, so we just go to the run game. And then every
Yeah.
team in the Pac-12 knows that, oh, Oregon State is going to go to the run game because their quarterback can't throw. So, I mean, why not give the guy a shot later on in the season? But like I said, it's up to these first few weeks.
Mhm.
If
Well,
Jebbia can shine, then yeah. But if he can't in the first 2 weeks, then there's no reason that they shouldn't be starting Chance Nolan.
to answer your question, hold up, we got a chat. Let me read it real quick. Said, I think they'll use Nick Moore in running formations, kind of like what Kalito a few years back. I mean, yeah, no, that definitely. That's what I want. I want to see Smith get creative because we've seen some trick plays here and there. But to answer what you asked a second ago, Hef, was basically will he be willing to change his approach from a pocket quarterback? And that's kind of why I don't think this controversy is going to last because I think it's going to show he's not willing to change away from that. And it's not a knock on him. He's been successful doing it. You look at his time in Idaho, his time as offensive coordinator at Washington, what he's done so far here at Oregon State. His offense has been great for his entire coaching career, basically. So why would he change it after a few bad games? And that's why I really think Jebbia being named the day one starter kind of shows that he's going to stay with him. You know, I really don't foresee Jonathan Smith in a shortened COVID season abandoning what he's done his whole entire coaching career, you know?
Yeah, but then on the other hand,
I'm not saying I don't want him to. I would love to see it happen. I just don't think it will necessarily.
yeah. Well, then let me throw this question at you. If he doesn't, you know, if Oregon State comes out and they play abysmal, they're awful, and he doesn't change the system, does he get the boot? Even like last week we said, is this a season that, you know, Jonathan Smith should be on the hot seat? And we said no, because it's a 7-game season. But I mean, if you can clearly see that he's just stubborn and won't change his offense, and if we change the offense, clearly we'd win games. You know, does he get the boot or what happens? You know,
That'll be an interesting storyline to follow. Definitely a great question. I'm curious to see that. Best case scenario is, although as a Nolan guy, and I still think he's going to be a unique talent, will do great things for us, no doubt. I do think that the best case scenario is that Jebbia has a great week one, carries on, and then there's no need to have this conversation again. Yeah. Last question I want to ask you real quick before we move on to our last topic. I think that one will be a shorter one, so it should be okay. But the last thing I want to ask you is, like it or whatever, our quarterback situation, it is what it's going to be. Our offensive line situation, hopefully they can be good. But can Hamilcar and Jamar Jefferson, can they be first team all conference this year? Last year, Hamilcar was second team all conference, which I didn't even realize. Kind of seems ridiculous. He really should. The question for him should be: can Hamilcar be an All-American, and can Jamar Jefferson be a first-team All Pac-12 guy?
Well, in the case of Jamar Jefferson, he can be first-team All Pac-12 if, you know, the offense can get going with the passing game, because we've seen it in years past. No time to pass. Literally no time to pass, or the quarterback just can't pass. So we revert to the run game, and every team knows that it's coming. So if we can balance it out between run game, pass game, there's no reason that he shouldn't be first team All Pac-12. I mean, look at the numbers he's put up in the past few years. I don't have them written up here, but I mean, you can look at his numbers or watch his play. Regardless, he has all the talent and all the opportunities to become first team All Pac-12.
Big thing with him too is if he just has to be healthy and he's going to produce. I think.
Yeah, in the case of Hamilcar, it's a little ridiculous that he wasn't already, but it also is the fact that he disappears some games. You know, he plays well for a game, and then we see that, you know, he's a first round draft pick in the NFL, and then there's games where you're like, well, where did he go? He goes ghost. So it's if he can do this, and especially in a shortened season, if he can do what he does all 7 games of this shortened season, there's absolutely no reason that he shouldn't also be first team All Pac-12.
And that's the thing. I think if those two guys can produce at their highest potential, if Rashad, if Hamilcar can stay focused every single game, show up in the big games, and then if Jamar can just stay healthy and the offense has good quarterback play, there's no doubt in my mind those two can play at the fullest top of their potential. And if those two guys can, that makes me much more optimistic about how the season's going to go.
Yeah.
Moving on to our last topic, Hef. It's, again, kind of last time we're going to be able to look at this with no clarity at all. But Pac-12, how do you rank it this year? I can start with my rankings if you want, or you can go first. What do you want?
No, go ahead. Let's hear your rankings.
So I kind of see the Pac-12 as this. I see us in 3 tiers this year. Tier 1, I hate to say it, but there's 2 teams in my Tier 1, and these are the 2 teams I think can have a somewhat of a shot of making a college football playoff, and that is USC. I think they're the best team in the Pac-12 this year, and U of O, which pains me to say. We're still going to beat them, but they have the talent. They're the second best team in my opinion. Tier 2, the next 3 through 9, so the next 7 teams, I think these guys can finish almost in basically any order you want. I got UW 3, Cal 4, Arizona State 5, Oregon State 6, Utah 7, Stanford 8, Arizona 9. And then Tier 3, these are considered the 3 worst teams in the Pac-12. And really, UCLA, I got UCLA 10, Washington State 11. I don't think those guys are terrible. I could easily see them maybe putting them in the Tier 2. Then sorry to all my Colorado friends back home. I'm from Boulder, if you guys don't know, but got to say CU is easily the worst team in the Pac-12 this season.
Bold. That's bold. All right, I'll give you mine. I mainly made my decision since this is a 7-game in-conference season. I made my little predictions off of who did the best in conference last year. Because, I mean, it's all about who you're playing up against in the Pac-12 this year. So I didn't do it by tiers. I just went from 1 to 12. 1, Oregon. 2, USC. I know, sadly, 1, Oregon. But, I mean, it's the team with the highest chances of making it into the CFB if it even happens. So, or CFP, not CFB, I'm sorry. So 1, Oregon. 2, USC. 3, Utah. 4, Washington. 5, bold, I say Cal, just because, I mean, defense wins what? Championships. And I think
I got Cal up there too.
Yeah, Cal definitely has one of the best defenses in the Pac-12, and I think that's going to work in their favor. 6, Arizona State. I really like their quarterback. I think, coming into, I think this is the second year. He's a good guy. I mean, he knows how to play, and it's about if they can put the pieces around him. 7, I have Oregon State. 8, I have Washington State. And then at 9, I have Colorado. 10, Stanford. 11, UCLA. 12, Arizona. I have Colorado at 9 mainly because they did better than Stanford, or they did the same as Stanford in the conference last year, and then UCLA and Arizona were the worst in the Pac-12 playing against Pac-12 teams last year. So, yeah.
I like that. I really think this year being a shortened season, I think there's going to be craziness is going to ensue this year, and I really hope that craziness is Oregon State 5-1, blah blah blah. Maybe we'll see. Something weird is going to happen, and that's why I have Utah at the bottom of the list. I think Utah is one of the most well-coached teams in the Pac-12, if not the best coach. They are a phenomenal program. They do a lot of great things, especially for being a smaller market school. They put together great teams year in, year out. I just think they're losing a lot of starters this year. They're losing their entire secondary. They lost their running back, lost their quarterback. That's why I have them a bit lower. I know a lot of people are going to call me crazy for having Oregon State at 6, Utah at 7. Question I want to ask you, we got to wrap it up here really quick. We have 2 minutes, but I just want to ask you, I had Oregon State at 6. I believe you had them at 7. Mm-hmm. Realistically, what is the best case for us and what is worst case?
Best case scenario is Oregon State comes out and, like we talked about earlier, plays good on both ends of the ball, because then that'll give us every opportunity to win the games that we need to win. Like you said, craziness is going to ensue this season. Best case scenario is Oregon State sneaks a few wins that everybody else thinks that they're not going to get, and they lose 2 to 3 games this year. Yeah. Worst case scenario, we're bottom of the pack. I mean, that's about as worse as it can get. I mean, not that it hasn't been that bad before, but there's a lot of expectations and a lot of stakes riding on this season, and I think the worst thing that could happen is not us being at the bottom of the pack.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. My expectation for the team is we go 3-4 or 4-3. So it seems a little bit underselling, saying best case scenario is 5-2, but that might be best case scenario. Maybe 6-1 would be sweet. I really think that's not realistic. Worst case scenario is, honestly, I've seen this story. As we finish 0-7, we're done. But we're thinking positive from here on out. That's not going to happen. We're going at least 4-3 in my book, and we're going to finish the season top half of the Pac-12.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I like I said, I have them right in the middle of the pack, and there's no reason that they shouldn't be, but it's about if they can show up and play.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I thank you everybody for coming out, watching Beaver Dash tonight. It was a good show. Hope you enjoyed it. We have columns published exclusively with our partner sportspac12.com. You can follow them on Twitter at sportspac12. Dashboards TV also has all of our content on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. Or you can check us out, me and Gus, or our fellow Dashboard streamers at dashsports.tv. Thank you for coming. I've been Morgan Heffelfinger.
Just like.
It's been a good one. Enjoy your night, folks.